Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Bennett, your spiritual counselor and psychic coach for Metaphysically Speaking. Today, we are going to be talking about forgiveness. And you're going to say, wow, we hear about that in church all the time. I don't think you're hearing about it the way it really should be presented. Now, that's a presumption on my part, but I've been in plenty of churches and I've never once A, heard it discussed, or B, heard it discussed as thoroughly as we're going to talk about it today, and how forgiveness is for your mental, spiritual, and physical health. Physical health. What does that be forgiven? My Aunt Tilly. Yes, forgiving your Aunt Tilly does have an effect on you. But first, I want to show you something sweet and adorable. Every now and then, and I know I'm accused of favoring cats, but I do. But if this was a wolf, I'd be showing you a wolf. This is a man who has a pussy cat for his best friend. And you see that he's on his bike and he's got his pussycat strapped in the pussycat carrier inside a pussycat harness. And the cat does all kinds of things with him, including bike riding, skiing, swimming. And I think that is absolutely adorable. Now, I could never do that to a cat. Cats are for cuddling and kissing, but this cat has figured, hey, I got a nice life. I got a happy daddy. I got a daddy who loves me. What the heck? The quality of life is important, not just the quantity of life. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, there was a very interesting article in Time magazine recently, and its title is it time to retire the villain origin story, like Cruella de Vil? And it all starts with, the mommy didn't love them, the daddy didn't love them, the grandfather disinherited them, blah, blah, blah. In other words, we have been empathizing and sympathizing with the bad guys instead of the good guys. And this is stupid. Yes, it's wonderful to understand how the person grew up and what traumas befell them. I'm not talking about PTSD from being in war. I'm talking, and everybody who has had that situation deserves it, as well as, say, the condo nightmare in Florida, 9/11 people. I can't imagine going through that. I imagined it a smidgy when I called my cousin Fran to see if she had gone into the city, and she had had an appointment to go into the city, but she canceled it. She couldn't get herself moving. She wasn't feeling right. And she was thinking getting dressed, getting on the train. Oh God, I can't deal with it. So she didn't go.
On 9/11.
On 9/11. And that's my executive producer. And so she called and canceled, and she would have been right there. So if you are meant to go through a set of circumstances, you will. If not, you won't. Something will happen like that. We've heard of people who were supposed to go on a cruise, but got a cold at the last minute, didn't want to go. A business thing came up, couldn't go, blah, blah, blah. All these circumstances mean that the people around that individual who were on the ship, for instance, a cruise, were supposed to go through it, but he was supposed to, or she was supposed to go through it from an observatory perspective, in a grief perspective. So it's not a freak of nature when you don't participate in a nightmare. And like the boyfriend down in Florida, he was over at his girlfriend's house and she said, no, 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 I want you to stay. Where his apartment was the part of the building that collapsed. And isn't it a miracle that they found a cat after 17 days? I don't know if that cat's still alive. It wanted to survive just to say hi to mommy and daddy and then go to heaven. I don't know, but that is incredible. He must have been getting water from the hoses. So whatever karma you're supposed to deal with, you deal with. And I'm certainly not the only one to ever say it's not just what happens, it's how you respond to it. Yes, you have a right to feel tragedy. And you have a right to understand that that tragedy was preventable. And you need to get to the point, if you're involved, of forgiving the shabby owners who didn't take care of it years ago when the diagnosis of sick building syndrome, basically, foundation cracking, leaks, were not fixed. Those people are going to have to go through a nightmare process of forgiveness. And I don't mean where you say, okay, sorry, done. And you blow it off and you think, if I could just get my hands on that lethal, I would just. That's not forgiveness. That's words coming out of your mouth. You have to forgive from 3 different levels: your physical self, your mental/emotional self, and your spiritual self. Because believe it or not, your physical body is being harmed with an overproduction of cortisol, with an overproduction of adrenaline. Constant drain as you think about it and rehash it and go over it again, go over it again, go over it again. And what if? You are physically draining your own body's resources. And that's killing you. It affects how you sleep. It affects how you wake, what kind of a mood you're in. It affects how you respond to others throughout the day. It affects how you relate to your pets. Not only your spouse and children you may have and your best friends, but animals sense. Animals sense when you are not well. They know when something is deeply wrong, and you will see them staring at you. They're looking up and they're looking up, and maybe they're trying to climb up your leg, or they're rubbing up against you and spending every moment with you because they know that something is deeply wrong. They can see it in your aura. They can see it in your face, in your eyes, in your body language. Animals are very, very smart. We always underestimate them and think, oh, it's just a dog. Well, dogs are the ones who are leading blind people down streets and subways and on airplanes. Dogs are the ones who are part of the rescue team in every single nightmare across the country, across the world. We send our dogs from the United States over to other parts of the world looking for survivors in disasters. Dogs are the ones checking out the luggage at the airports for drugs and for birds and for animals that are getting smuggled into this country. Cats also take care of their owners, not just accompanying a man on a bicycle. I saw, what was it, America's Funniest Animals the other night. I didn't know it was on, and I wanted something light because I was overwhelmed with certain things that were happening. And there was a baby, maybe 2, out on the porch, the balcony rather, where he didn't belong. And I'm thinking somebody's taking this picture with the cell phone. And it was, bars that go across instead of a solid material, and then a larger bar on the top. And the cat was sitting on the end, like over here, like say, this is the whole picture of the baby here, and the cat's over here. And the cat's looking around and then notices the baby and then watches the baby. And the baby tries to climb up, and the cat goes whack, whack on the child's hand. Child looks at the cat looks down at the kid. Not happening, kiddo. And the baby reaches up again, whack, whack. So the baby moves over further away from the cat. The cat moves, whack, whack. 3rd time, baby moves over even further. The cat crawls on the small ledge. Cat puts himself in danger because you can fall right through. It's just a ledge with a couple of bars to protect everybody, because does not do the job. And the baby tries to climb up. The cat goes whack, 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 whack. Kid gets the hint, goes inside. The cat's staring at the kid going all the way inside and goes back. There are all kinds of stories like that. Obviously, cats are not dogs. They don't have the body mass. Nobody's going to put a cat on the harness and go down the subway if they can't see. So animals who love you will take care of you. But even they get exhausted with people who don't mean, I forgive you. So we're dealing with the physical part. And say somebody hit you or ran into you with a bicycle, that part of the body that was injured, if there is a part of the body that was injured, hurts even more, doesn't heal properly. Why? Because you're constantly sending negative bombardments to that area. My foot, my poor foot, my foot. You know what could have happened? I could have run my foot off. Not likely with a bicycle unless it's a motorcycle. But by being angry, you are angry at that part of the body because you're blaming that part of the body for being in the way. That doesn't work. But if you're doing that, you are injuring yourself over and over and over and over again. Now, mentally and emotionally. How many of us have said, nice going, God. Good deal. What did I do to deserve that? Well, maybe in another lifetime, obviously another lifetime, either you did that by accident or on purpose to somebody else. Maybe you didn't have a bicycle at that time. Maybe it was a wheel somebody was rolling down the road, or maybe somebody stomped on you, fell and stomped on you. Maybe not purposely, just fell. Or maybe it was purposefully. And it's just a mean person. But you can't hang on to that because it's occupying space in your head. The more anger you feel, it's in your head, it's in your heart, and you're swishing out by enlarging the negative energy of your heart and of your brain. You're swishing out any happiness that you could possibly feel. Think about it. Buddha says you must empty the vessel before you can fill it. If you pick flowers and bring over a pail of water, you can't fill the vessel if it's filled with rocks. So you've got to empty the rocks out, clean it out, and then you can put the water in with your flowers. But there can't be any flowers where there are a bunch of rocks. And everything you start thinking about is now feeding off, not the actual thing you're thinking about, but it's feeding off the anger and the misery and how you are thinking about that person and every single thing that person ever said to you, every conversation you've ever had, every opportunity for good things or bad things to happen. And you begin fantasizing and making it, instead of this big, you're making it this big. How is that helping you? It's not. I promise you it's not. And then you start imagining all kinds of other things about that person. Well, does that person run around with the bicycle and run over other people's feet? There's a commercial, I don't remember what it's for, but this big bully kid is yelling at a smaller child. And this other kid is watching it. And he picks up a ball and he throws it. And what you see is his Saint Bernard chasing after the ball where the bully is, because that's where he threw the ball, right at the bully, right down at his feet. And the bully sees this giant dog, because Saint Bernards are quite large, sees the dog and hightails it out of town, saving the little boy. He didn't have to lift a finger except to throw a ball. He didn't have to get angry. He didn't have to get mean. He didn't have to think about anything. extraneous. He just decided he was going to solve the problem in a very easy way. I think that's a great commercial. I think it's a great message. You don't have to throw a ball, but you can begin to say, this is taking up too much space. I don't think I can deal with this. The Dalai Lama says forgiveness starts with honesty in the heart. That's true. We think we don't know because there was nobody around recording what Yeshua, Jesus said. But he said, love each other as you love yourself. If you love yourself, you don't have to get angry. You don't have to get mad. You don't have to seek vengeance. Because you're too busy, and I don't mean egomaniacally, I'm fabulous, I'm handsome, I'm tall. That's nonsense. Because we all get older, we all get shorter. That was Buddha's big revelation. If you've ever seen Keanu Reeves in the story of Buddha, watch it. You think Keanu Reeves, but the guy meditates in real life. He's part Samoan, which is native Polynesian spirituality, which is very spiritual. And they say our motherland rests beneath the royal ocean. And that would be Lemuria. So they get back hundreds of thousands of years. So Buddha discovered when his father had kept him inside the palace walls because he didn't want him exposed to the horrors of life. He discovered we all get old, we all get sick, and then we all die. These are the three truths of life. And he's right. Death is not a punishment. It's a reward for lasting as long as you did and for getting as much done on your karmic menu as you possibly could have if you live your life with honor. And forgiveness is a gift. It's a gift with you, and it's a gift for the other person. You don't know if the other person even realizes that some affront took place, that you're accusing that person of. They may be totally unaware. They may not have known that their bicycle wheel hit your foot. They may have just thought it was a rock. So you're angry at someone who doesn't even know anything happened. Think about that. Is that a waste of life? I think it is a waste of life. And the third level you have to work on to forgive someone is spiritually. It doesn't mean 3 Our Fathers, 3 Hail Marys, and a good act of contrition. If you're Catholic, you know what I'm talking about. It means that your soul finally realizes this was just another bump in the road in your karmic life. Just another bump. Even if somebody was really mean, and we all know that some people can be really mean. That's what was being referred to in this article about it's time to retire the villain origin story. Time to stop sympathizing with the villain and start empathizing and sympathizing with the victims. I'm sorry, Hitler didn't have a great life as a child. That's just too bloody damn bad. I didn't either. And I'm not looking to corral people and rule the world. Many of you had rotten childhoods too. You're not taking over. You're not blaming others. You're not looking for a group to villainize. What's going on in this country with the Antichrist that I call, in my opinion, the Antichrist who is known as Trump. You want to understand what the Antichrist is, go read the end of the Bible. John of Patmos wrote it. and look at the Nostradamus shows. By the way, history, science, and travel are three channels that are running fabulous scientific programs, archaeological programs, paranormal programs. I am highly impressed. And I thought, the Travel Channel? How many times can we see Italy? It's a bunch of rocks with some ruins. Okay, great. Greece, frankly, I'd rather go to New England and take a look around. I don't like big rocks with nothing on them. Sorry, Greece and Italy, if I'm offending you, but nevertheless, I wouldn't run there. The Atlantic Ocean is a beautiful ocean. The Pacific Ocean is beautiful. Why would you run across over there? Just saying. But spiritually means the very essence of who you are. Your soul is what continues on throughout the galaxies, throughout all of your existences. Yes, people, if you watch the show regularly, if you do any kind of reading, if you do any kind of research, every great religion, whether it's Shinto or Jain or Hinduism or Buddhism or the Native Americans in this country, the South Pacific people, all understand that there's life after this. I always say this is not God's best effort. So you don't even know if the person who offended you actually understands or even knows that they offended you. So if you understand that this is just part of life and it's training you for something else, then you will understand that this is your job to forgive that person. And we'll talk about letting it go in a few minutes, because there's more to it. Notice I have not used the word forget, because that comes later. All I'm asking you to do is listen to what many great philosophers have said. Life is 10% action and 90% your reaction. That's why some people are more traumatized with an incident than others. Yes, I'm not talking about the people who don't feel and shut down and wind up exploding one day. I'm talking about people who understand this happened for a reason. And it's not that Jesus loved you best, because that has nothing to do with it. You and your own guardian angels created the environment for your karma in each lifetime, each menu. You have to, inside yourself, realize this is just part, a little teeny weeny part of your life story. And when you realize that, and you realize that the other person has had things happen to him or to her, you say, well, I guess I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who's had to go through this. Then you know that you're not alone. And you can now begin to forgive that person. And when you truly have forgiven from the soul, you feel physically different. It's like an energy rises up and you feel physically better, physically healing, and then finally healed. You feel lighter. It's like becoming a vegetarian and also meditating. You feel lighter, you feel healthier, you feel stronger. You see things and experience things more clearly. And you're not carrying the dead weight of anger around. Anger strangles you. Anger makes you feel awful. And so when you say to yourself, okay, I have truly forgiven myself and for getting angry and forgiven the other person, you can then decide how you are going to approach that other person. If you feel that you're the kind of person who doesn't communicate well verbally, like you get all tongue-tied, it's a nice idea to take a notepad and jot down, I'm sure you didn't mean it, if you're sure the person didn't mean it, or even though you probably meant it at the time, I sincerely forgive you for running over my foot, for embarrassing me in front of other people, whatever. And I wish you well, honestly. I honestly wish you well. Truly, sign your name and send it off. You may never hear from that other person. What if that other person doesn't really know you, doesn't know your name, and can't figure out what the heck is happening? They just feel, wow, what a nice person to have done this. They may ask friends, what's this all about? I don't know, I don't remember. They may just tuck it in a special drawer. They may leave it out thinking, oh, maybe I'll remember it. It's not up to you to decide how they're going to respond to you. Your job is how you are responding to that person or that group of people. That's your job. To understand it, to fully grasp what happened as best you can. Even if you don't fully understand it, understand whatever you can, and then understand if you can't get all the details. But you have to let it go. Don't worry about the other side, what they're going to do with the apology. And even if you are able to approach that person and speak clearly and calmly and sincerely, and they say, go screw off, that's not your job to worry about that. That's now on them. You've released it. You've released the karmic connection that got wrapped around the two of you. So if that person doesn't take the apology, that's that person's problem. And they've wrapped a rope around themselves. But it's completely left you. It's completely their problem now. But you will know whether or not you meant it sincerely, because you won't have any attachment to it. You won't be second guessing yourself. You'll be saying, gee, I wish they would have said thanks, or I wish they would have said, oh, it's great, or wrap their arms around me. It's not your job to worry about it. It's their job. Just like it was your job, now it's their job, and it's off your back. Think about that. Think about how many times you haven't taken the opportunity. And say to yourself, wouldn't it be great if I could just get a hold of that individual and say, I'm sorry? Well, if enough years have gone by, they have forgiven you or completely forgotten it. But if they haven't, think of the joy you would bring somebody else, not just to yourself, but to somebody else who harmed you, and now you're forgiving that individual. So you're not only unburdening yourself, you are bringing joy to someone who purposely or not purposely harmed you in some way. That should make you smile. because you've given that person a gift. You've given that person a gift of forgiveness and of love. And when you love yourself and respect yourself, you can forgive others. Now, I have to tell you that we have some production problems and we can't take live calls today. So in a few minutes, we do have a question that somebody sent us via email to our website, and that information is on metaphysicallyspeaking.com website. You've got all the information if you want to make an appointment, if you have questions. And don't forget, the rule is, if you have a personal question, first you must ask a metaphysical question. It could be about forgiveness. It could be about forgetting, which is what we're going to talk about next. It could be about reincarnation. It could be about astrology. It could be about a million different things. And then after I answer that question, you can ask your personal question. Please don't ask me if you should sell your house and move back up north. The answer is yes. But go to a place that A, has water, B, doesn't have nightmare tornadoes and dust storms. I don't know if you've ever been in a dust storm. I was in a dust storm when I lived in Denver. It's the most astonishing thing. If you live up north and you say, I've looked out and I couldn't see, I couldn't tell where the road was. I couldn't tell where the cars and the streets were and the trees. It was all white. That's called whiteout. Well, this is brownout. When a storm whips up and takes all the dirt and the dust, because the Rockies are filled with it, and you get a giant wall, and you can't see the sky, you can't see ahead of you, you can't see the dirt, you can't see your lawn. It's just this massive amount of dirt. It's all you can see, and it gets in your house. Because after I had cleaned the house for 2 days, that's when the dirt storm came. Of course, why come before when I have to clean anyway? But I was sitting on the floor in the dirt, talking to a friend in New York, and I started crying. I said, I can't take it anymore. I need green. I need rain. I need weather. And the dirt was in my face. It was in my hair. I had to shake my hair out. I had to clean myself off before I could vacuum all over again, scrub the floors all over again, dust the furniture, not dust the furniture, clean the dust off the furniture, vacuum it, and then clean it again. It was a nightmare. How to wash all the linens. It took me another 2 days. So when you're deciding to relocate, just don't relocate because your mother's there, your best friends are there. Relocate because it's a place you want to live in. And I'd be really careful because we don't have any more years left before we have continued apocalyptic events. We've got the plagues, we've got whether it's Ebola or COVID. Now certain states are saying children have to be vaccinated or they cannot come back to school. Now the anti-vaxxers and the Trumpers are saying, you don't have a right to do that. Well, you had to get the polio shot when I was a kid. You had to get the measles and the rubella and the mumps shots, or the kid couldn't come to school. And the parents weren't arguing. They wanted the best for their children. I think parents should start wanting the best for their children instead of fighting their politics through their children. If I had children, they'd be vaccinated against everything. It's not only for their personal safety, but they could be carriers. And they could infect other children. And that's on you. That crime is on you. Because if you're a minor, you need your parents' permission. Once they're 18, they don't need your permission. It's their responsibility to go get the shots. And that's something you're going to need big time forgiveness from the universe, not me, but the universe. Now we're talking about forgiving, but also another part of the healing is beginning to forget. Why? Because that takes up another bit of space in your brain and in your heart. And if you don't forget it, not completely, because there are things that happen to you that you simply can't forget. But instead of occupying a ton of space in your heart and your brain, they occupy just a small space. If you can forget something, it's not clogging up your mind. And you're not attracting another set of circumstances like the original set of circumstances that made you so angry. The expression you experience what you expect. Like if you're constantly afraid of snakes, you're going to find a snake. Constantly afraid of sharks, there's going to be a whole host of sharks sitting there saying, comes now, okay, are we all ready? Zoom. Whatever you fear, you create in your mind a picture of it. And that thing becomes attached to your brain and attached to how you are functioning. And so you need to begin to forget. And that also makes you calmer. It makes you more forgiving. It makes you kinder. It makes you a better person. It makes you more reasonable, so other people can bring their problems to you. Or be your friend. And if you have children, you can be a better parent and give good advice instead of angry advice. Forgetting lets you continue to heal. Lets you forgive on a deeper subconscious level. So beginning to forget. And then it puts you on the other side where you become the observer of something. Instead of it owning you, you become the observer of the circumstances. You become the ruler of your own destiny. And then you're truly on the path of self-enlightenment. I'm going to quote Buddha again and something that Confucius said, very similar things. They never sought out supreme enlightenment because it's supreme enlightenment. And if you're in the physical body, you can't experience supreme enlightenment. You can experience various stages of it, but you would have to reach a certain level of spirituality only available to us out of the physical body. And then we can see more. We can feel more on a spiritual level. And you will look back and say, what a dingbat I was. Why did I waste all this time doing this? Why did I waste my time doing that? Oh, I can't believe it. Or you can say, you know what? I'm glad I let it go when I did. And that gives you more enlightenment. You don't get enlightenment just by meditating. You get it by experiencing things that have changed you in a way and seeing the reality of it and risen above those circumstances to become a better person. Now, I understand that there are circumstances, say at work, where there's a thug as your boss. And that person is so miserable and self-hating that he or she hates everybody else and does all kinds of underhanded things to make your life a misery. If you can go to the boss above that, if you can go to HR because they're active and they will have a mediation and they will request that that person after investigation goes for counseling, then that's productive. If you can't, you've either got to get yourself promoted out of that position into another position or get another job. Because there are people that become so angry that they become in love with the anger, and then they become bad people. And then that's ripe for the picking for evil to come along and snatch them up, with their permission, of course. You cannot fight that kind of evil. You can surround yourself with light. You can ask the angels to give you extra energy and protection, but you can't be an exorcist. You can't get rid of someone who is nothing but hatred. You must also do something else. What am I going to say? You have to forgive that person. And sometimes when you are at the position of forgiving that person for being mean, the love that you are exuding, the kindness that you are exuding becomes contagious. And they feel it. That person may not have ever felt that kind of kindness, ever. Maybe that was an abused child, was bullied in college, bullied on the first few jobs, decided he was going to be a bigger bully, but is now discovering that somehow there's this other feeling that comes toward him. What is it? Forgiveness. It might be a bloody drag for you to have to find another job. And when you're interviewing, you inquire about the procedures that you go through if you have someone above you who's a thug. Okay, so you don't want to use the word thug, say a bully. Someone who has singled you out or has singled out everybody in the department. And HR does nothing. And upper management doesn't want to hear about it. That's a no-win situation. But inquire, when you are being interviewed by the company, you are interviewing them as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why lots of people are not going back to their jobs. It's not just salary. It's not just that they don't want to commute. They don't want to commute back to that company because they had a bad boss. And they have decided their mental health is worth more than they ever thought it was. So this is a constant sort of wheel of life that's turning. Events happen to you, either you let them go, or you have to examine them, your feelings get hurt, and then you have to forgive and begin to forget. And then another event comes along. Life was never meant to be a bowl of roses. Even very wealthy people have their problems. They get cancer, they have heart trouble, they have marital trouble, the kids are monsters. And maybe sometimes because the parents weren't around, they were too busy being fabulous. Maybe something happened to the kids. Think of Paris Hilton. I don't know if you saw that show last year where she was on with several other girls and they were talking about what happened to them at a camp. It was a camp for troubled girls that her parents sent her to, and she had been sexually molested. So did all the girls on the panel. But she was one of the lucky ones. She was able to eventually tell her parents. The other girls didn't. And so they grew up frustrated and angry and bitter and acted out. So did Paris, but she got a grip on it with therapy. You don't know why somebody else is being mean. You just know whether or not you can keep tolerating it. And if somebody is constantly destroying your opportunities at work, it's got to be fixed one way or the other. Now, what if the problems are at home? Well, marriage counseling with a good therapist. Not every therapist is great. Just because they graduated as a therapist doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. This is going to be shocking to many therapists, but they already know it. So you shop for a therapist, ask for references from your friends, from your neighbors, from anybody, from your family doctor, gynecologist, anybody. And call up and ask them, you can come in for a pre-interview to see whether or not they would be appropriate for you and your spouse. And then if your spouse won't go, you go. You learn how to handle the situation. You'll learn eventually whether or not it's worth staying in. You'll learn whether or not that person actually wants to be married to you. You know, around Valentine's Day, I used to get all kinds of calls. Linda, would you marry me? Do I know you? No, but we think it's exciting to get married on Valentine's Day, and we want you to marry us because we really love your show. We like you. Well, I don't know you. You'd have to come in for several appointments before I could marry you. Why? We made the decision, but I didn't make the decision. And I'm not taking the responsibility of marrying you if I don't feel you're right for each other. Well, who are you? Well, a second ago, I was fabulous. Now, because I have rules and regulations about whom I choose to marry, I'm awful. I say, well, if you change your mind, let me know. Otherwise, find somebody else. And I never did marry anybody under those circumstances. Marriage isn't a spur of the moment thing. It's supposed to be a commitment for life. But unfortunately, a lot of people go into it not fully knowing their partner. Maybe the partner doesn't even fully know himself or herself. And you don't know perhaps how the partner responds to tragedies. You don't know if the partner is a secret gambler or a pedophile. Women, if you have a guy pursuing you suddenly and you happen to have small children, you better have this guy investigated. That's what a lot of pedophiles do. They find a woman with small children and they're fabulous and they take them to the rides and they take them to the park and they all go everywhere together, the beach, and then finally you marry him. And then you have to go to the store or you have to go pick up pizza or you get your hair done. The guy zooms in. So there's lots of things that you need to have investigated even before you get married. I would investigate anyone and everyone. You need to be really careful because that's a wound that's going to take a while to heal. Even if you forgive that person, because they betrayed you over and over and over again, and you weren't even aware of it till the end. They'll do it again if they can. So you have to know who you're going to marry. And if it's irreconcilable differences, real irreconcilable differences, then go ahead and get the divorce because marriage is not supposed to be punishment. There's a friend of Oprah Winfrey's who said to her one time, love doesn't hurt. It doesn't smack around. It doesn't push. It doesn't shove. It doesn't emotionally abuse. It doesn't try to dismantle you by picking and criticizing. Love is supportive and kind and nurturing and reciprocal. If you don't have that, get out. If it's not possible to get it, get out. Because it's not a good example for your children either to watch you go through this. And you have to not only forgive that person who is wounding you, but you have to forgive yourself. You know, if you didn't know the person had a problem, like drinking or drugs or gambling or pedophilia or cheating, because they never displayed any of that. Okay,
5 minutes.
okay, then okay, and now go for counseling and see if that can be fixed. But the person has to truly want. And don't let them say, well, I'll give up gambling for you. I'll give up drinking for you. I'll give up smoking for you. No, they give it up for themselves, not for you. Because the minute you disappoint them or upset them, then they go back to us and say, well, you upset me. Therefore, they don't accept responsibility. We all have to accept responsibility. We all have to look back on our lives and say, what can I fix? I was going to tell you that I only had 2 things I was sorry for, but at the moment I can only remember one. And I may have talked about it before. I think it was my senior year of high school, and there was a really nice guy whose name was Ricky. Last name started with a K, I think, or a C. And he said something that was way out of line, and I gently tapped him on the side of the face. And he was a natural redhead, like I was a natural redhead, and he burst into red cheeks, and then he walked away. Well, it was appropriate for the situation because it was way out of line, but it wasn't like him that I know of. And I did apologize the following day or the weekend or whatever. And he shook his head, but he never quite looked at me the same way again. We were never friends again. And I always felt horrible about that. And I cannot remember the other one. I've already forgotten it. I'll remember it. I'll tell you next time. My dear producer, oh wait, let me tell you that we are on every second Tuesday and every 4th Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And next time everything will be set up and you will have the number that you can call in, and nothing is too silly. If it's important to you to get an answer, then it's an important question. Okay, Miss Producer, what is the question we had from the person?
You're out of time.
I'm out of time? I am not out of time. Am I out of time? Mr. Director, am I out of time?
You have like 3 minutes left.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry to say.
Yes, you are. We're out of- So shut up and move along. Okay, I just want you to remember, if you open up your hearts and minds to God's universal truth, you will know that God and the angels are always with you. Namaste. See you on the 4th Tuesday. I'm Linda Bennett.